When Botswana celebrated its independence from Britain in 1966, it was a poverty-stricken nation with not much going for it. Then, just 1 year later, diamonds were discovered. A lot of diamonds, paving the way for the country to become the world's largest producer of gem diamonds. Now this precious stone makes up 2/3 of the country's export earnings. The sound management of this industry has led to Botswana recording the highest average growth rate in the world for 30 years. Since then, economic growth slowed to just over 6%.
At independence, Botswana didn't really have physical and social infrastructure. We didn't have any tarred road, for instance. There were very, very few schools. So we invested large sums of money in improving the social and physical infrastructure.
Botswana is rated the least corrupt country in Africa by Transparency International and is one of the few countries to have escaped the resource curse. Government owns half of Botswana and has used these revenues to build up massive reserves and develop the country's infrastructure. It's also put an economic diversification plan in place to develop alternative sectors like tourism, manufacturing, and agriculture. But this was working on a 30-year time frame. Now the country faces its biggest challenge yet, a 50% drop in diamond revenues.
The truth of the matter is, the Botswana diamond mines will not escape some adverse effect. So in the short term, a very challenging time. In the long term, however, the outlook is very good for the diamond industry. We have to conserve cash. Because in the absence of robust sales, our cash flow position is constrained. And so some of the challenges we face are essentially how, in a period when we don't know with precision when the market will turn, how you preserve the cash that you have in hand. The other thing, of course, is that part of cash preservation is that you downsize. And certainly from a group perspective, we have had to look at our staff complement and undertake very painful reductions. With that comes the risk of losing talent, some of which we have ourselves invested in developing over the years. The balance between preserving cash by downsizing while at the same time retaining talent such that when the market turns around, you have the right people to capitalize on that market.
This view is shared by the diamond trading company Botswana. The DTC set up shop in country in March 2008. This is also a 50-50 partnership between the government of Botswana and De Beers, and is really the major vehicle for beneficiation in the diamond mining sector.
What happens is Botswana production comes to DTC Botswana. We value the goods. Those goods are then, once they're agreed, go to London, where they're mixed with productions from all over the world. And then goods are allocated to DTC Botswana and they come back and we sell them locally.
When a diamond comes out of the ground, it doesn't really look like much at all. It's only once it's cut and polished that it really becomes something that every girl dreams about. And it's this cutting and polishing industry that's really become the focus of Botswana to add value to its diamond mining industry. But now, as the world goes into an economic slowdown, some say the survival of this young industry is at stake.
Of course, it's a very new industry and was just building up to full production. We had new factories opening through 2007, 2008. Timing of this crisis is very bad. The whole diamonds pipeline is pretty much seized up. But I think that that's going to be a temporary phenomenon. I would think by the middle of the year, diamonds should be flowing again. So it's a question of survival through short-term problems. Of course, that's very difficult for a new company which maybe won't have much cash. So I suspect many of the diamond companies will be turning to their bankers for short-term finance.
Safdeco is one of the 16 licensed cutting and polishing companies. It's a South African company that's just set up an entire diamond technology park, complete with zebra sanctuary.
The crisis we find ourselves in at the moment is a world liquidity crisis, which is basically influencing the diamond industry. So the number one challenge, as far as we are concerned in general, in diamond cutting today, is getting over this hurdle of this liquidity crisis.
The problem started with banks being unable to lend borrowers. And the diamond industry, especially the purchase of rough, is a cash upfront business. And so our clients through DTC Botswana are very vulnerable. And so through ourselves and the government and the industry itself, we are addressing the issue to find ways to mitigate and make sure that they survive this interim period.
So could government possibly intervene?
This industry is part and parcel of what we call a Diamond Hub, where we are promoting cutting, polishing in jewelry, at the same time promoting trading, etc. So government has tried to provide certain incentives. Among those is the fact that all the companies that do qualify to cut and polish here, they are entitled to receive diamonds from DTC Botswana. That's one thing, which would not otherwise be guaranteed if they were operating elsewhere. Secondly, we have had to classify diamond cutting and polishing as manufacturing, and therefore attracting a much lower tax. On the question of financing, we believe that our banking system are looking at the best way of funding the working capital for these companies. We have been promoting the establishment of a special financing facility for diamonds. This facility will be guaranteed by OPIC of the United States. We think that will make a contribution. The initial amount which is contemplated is $250 million US.
The key to getting through this difficult time seems to be knowing exactly what will sell. But the consensus seems to be that things will turn around. It's just a question of when.
Within the cutting industry within Botswana, they are struggling at the moment. We've had one closure. Again, but we're there to help them. We're not putting pressure on them at all. We're helping them, trying to supply them with exactly what they want to keep them sustainable through this period.
The two major principles we have to take into account to keep diamond cutting going as a viable option in these current very difficult economic times are the fact that the two things being, number one, only to purchase and manufacture diamonds where you can see profit. And number two, it's not enough to see profit, it's got to be diamonds that can be sold to the downstream market. Southern Africa obviously comes with very specific challenges that one doesn't see in more western cutting centres such as Antwerp and New York, and most definitely not in the more eastern cutting centres such as India and China, which are up-and-coming centres. It's very important to know and to have a defined strategy how to do business in Africa.
Botswana sits on the cusp of a new dawn, one where the future seems uncertain, but the tools it's got are, to say the least, pretty useful. Government's going to tap into its $9.2 billion reserves, which is about 28 months of imports, and for the first time in almost 20 years is looking to organizations like the World Bank for loans.
This year we are going to allow a substantial deficit. This is part and parcel of our strategy to stimulate the economy. It's part of the stimulus which takes into account the international financial and economic crisis. We will be borrowing from international institutions. The World Bank may be one source, but we will not be borrowing from IMF because IMF assists countries which have got a balance of payments problem. We don't have a balance of payments problem. We don't expect to have that.
In addition, the country doesn't plan to slow down on its infrastructure spending.
We expect growth to continue in the non-mining sectors. That includes construction, that includes trade, that includes the industry. We don't see any reason why those should not, and they will be promoting them. Part of the growth, of course, will come from government expenditure. As you know, we're having a substantial development budget of more than 10 billion pula. Most of that money will be used in promoting projects.